Imagine this. You wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and see the same familiar face staring back at you, the same person you've always been. But what if, without realizing it, something had changed? What if, somewhere along the way, the small choices, the silent compromises, and the unnoticed shifts in your thoughts had transformed you into something unrecognizable? You wouldn't even know when it happened, would you? No one ever thinks they are the villain. No one ever wakes up and decides, today I will become evil. And yet, history is filled with ordinary people, kind, compassionate, even moral, who became instruments of suffering, cruelty, and destruction. The guards at concentration camps, the interrogators in darkened cells, the men and women who turned a blind eye to injustice because it was more convenient. How does it happen? How do good people, people like you, become something they once swore they would never be? You've probably heard of the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But it's more than that. It's paved with rationalizations, with small concessions, with moments of silence when words should have been spoken. It's built on the quiet decay of conscience, the slow erosion of principles, and the steady normalization of what was once unthinkable. But here's the real horror. It doesn't feel like evil. It feels justified. Think of the Stanford prison experiment. A group of psychologically stable, everyday people were assigned the roles of prisoners and guards in a mock prison. Within days, the guards, regular students, no different from you, became sadistic, cruel, and abusive. Not because they were inherently bad, but because the situation gave them permission. The environment, the rules, and the roles transformed them, and they didn't even notice it happening. Now take a step back. Look at your own life, your own choices, your own justification. When was the last time you let something slide that you knew was wrong? When was the last time you told yourself, it's not my problem? When was the last time you blamed someone else rather than taking responsibility? Evil is not a monster lurking in the shadow. It is not some external force waiting to strike. Evil is a slow process of becoming, a subtle descent, one step at a time. And the most dangerous part, you won't even know it's happening. So how does it begin? What are the hidden forces that make good people go astray? And more importantly, how do you ensure that you don't become one of them? That's what we'll uncover next. As you embark on this exploration, consider how deeply entwined the notions of good and evil are with our psychological landscapes. They are not merely abstract concepts. They represent polarities within the human experience, intricately linked to identity, agency, and the unseen drives that can hijack our moral intentions. To unearth the roots of why good people can descend into darkness, we must dive deep into our mental frameworks, those often brittle constructions shaped by experience, societal influences, and underlying motivations. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, provides a foundational lens through which we can examine this interplay. Jung posited the existence of the shadow within each individual, a hidden part that contains the repressed weaknesses and desires we refuse to acknowledge. The shadow is not inherently evil, rather it is a repository of aspects of ourselves that our conscious mind deems unacceptable. Yet, when ignored or denied, these suppressed elements can rear their heads in unexpected and destructive ways. The very qualities we reject in ourselves can morph into the seeds of our moral corruption. Imagine a well-meaning individual whose unfortunate circumstances, stress, trauma, or societal pressure press on them like a vice grip. They feel their humanity slipping as anger or despair seeps into their consciousness, manifesting in actions and thoughts they could never have imagined themselves embodying. This is the paradox. The veneer of goodness can be paper-thin, and under pressure, it shatters, revealing jagged edges capable of inflicting harm. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher infamous for his declaration that God is dead, offers another layer to this understanding. He perceived morality as a construct, often created by the weak to control the strong. People's inherent lust for power and recognition can corrupt their morality, shifting it from a guiding light into a weapon for manipulation. He suggested that those who blindly accept societal moral codes become trapped in a herd mentality, losing their individuality and potential for self-realization. When confronted with the raw instinct for survival or achievement, a person may inadvertently forfeit their moral compass, plunging them into actions they once would have condemned. If we consider this framework, it's easy to see why good people can slide into the abyss. They may become entangled in systems, social, economic, or cultural, that reward ruthlessness and self-interest. As their values become dulled by convenience or necessity, the very societies that once upheld them can morph into breeding grounds for moral decay. Yet, there's more. Arthur Schopenhauer's philosophy suggests that underlying human nature is driven by an unquenchable will, one that often prioritizes self-preservation slung against the backdrop of existential despair. Driven by this intrinsic force, individuals may find themselves making decisions that ultimately betray their values in the name of personal gain or survival. Have you ever found yourself justifying a small lie or questionable action, reasoning it as a means to an end? It's a slippery slope. Each small transgression can lead to a cascade of compromises, leading you further from the ideals you once held dear. As you contemplate these influences, consider how culture itself plays a role. In Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, relentless consumerism and superficial happiness suppress authentic emotions and desires, creating an illusion of harmony while breeding resentment and moral decay beneath the surface. One might argue that our modern society, inundated with instant gratification and constant connectivity, mirrors this dystopia in alarming ways. Amidst a cacophony of digital distractions, do we not risk losing sight of our core values? Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist, adds a profound element to this dissection of morality. He asserted that individuals are condemned to be free, they bear the weight of choosing amidst ambiguity. This freedom can be paralyzing, propelling individuals toward inauthentic existence. Have you ever felt the tension between what you genuinely believe and how you act amidst societal pressures that contradict your values? That dissonance can take root in the psyche, fermenting into self-deception and moral ambiguity. The freedom to choose offers both empowerment and anxiety, presenting moral dilemmas that can tilt the scale toward evil, especially when framed by external influence. Building upon these philosophical insights, you see the insidious nature of this phenomenon, a hidden epidemic festering within the human condition. As you increasingly understand the layers of psychological pressure, cultural conditioning, and philosophical quandaries that surround you, it becomes evident that these forces sculpt the pathways to moral corruption. The question resurfaces, can good people truly become evil, or are they merely revealing the darkness that already dwells within, prodded by circumstance? Your heart races as you grasp the implications of these ideas. You are left with the unsettling awareness that within each of us lies the potential to succumb to such darkness. You ache to know more, to uncover the unseen consequences of these hidden influences, how they shape both individual lives and the fabric of society itself. The shadows beckon, inviting you deeper into a reality that is both complex and deeply disturbing. Will you take the plunge? To staunch the insidious slide into moral darkness, there must come a rebellion, an awakening to the truth that one is an active participant in the ongoing dialogue of good and evil. This rebellion begins with a radical shift in perspective, a counterintuitive embrace of vulnerability and honesty that defies societal norms. Good people becoming evil is not merely a matter of circumstance, it is a conscious choice to forego one's truth for the comfort of conformity. What if you were to embrace your shadow rather than deny those dark impulses? What if you recognized them as part of your humanity? Carl Jung championed the idea of integrating the shadow, suggesting that self-awareness, acknowledging the darker facets of the self, can lead to greater authenticity. By confronting your less savory instincts, you can better understand the motivations behind your actions and make choices from a place of conscious integrity rather than blind reaction. This isn't about wallowing in darkness, it's about arming yourself with the knowledge of your full self, lighting the way through moral ambiguity. Moreover, consider the necessity of cultivating critical thinking as a weapon against conformity. In a world awash with noise, making the decision to question prevailing narratives can empower you to carve a path of authenticity. Instead of accepting societal standards, nurture a habit of inquiry. Engage with dissenting ideas, challenge moral norms, and explore the philosophies around you, even those that unsettle your beliefs. In the words of Nietzsche, it's through the struggle with oneself and the world that one achieves self-overcoming, a transcendence into a more profound moral existence. Drawing from historical lessons can also inspire this rebellion. Think of figures like Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr., who stood resolute in their commitment to non-violence and justice amidst societal chaos. They did not merely adhere to the moralities handed to them, they shaped new paradigms of thinking, encouraging others to awaken from complacency. Harness the power of your voice, however small, to stand for what is right. Courage in the face of societal pressures can ignite collective movements, each act potentially becoming a ripple that inspires others to align their actions with their values. Consider also the importance of community. While isolation can lacerate one's moral compass, surrounding yourself with individuals committed to ethical integrity can create an uplifting framework for ethical behavior. Collaborate with others to foster environments, be it at home, work, or in social circles, where open dialogue about moral dilemmas can take place. By doing so, you not only hold yourself accountable, but provide a fertile ground for others to confront their shadows and embrace transformational change. The prospect of vulnerability might seem daunting, but it is fueled by authenticity. By allowing yourself to be open about your struggles, you foster a space for genuine connection. When you share your internal conflicts, you elevate discussions about morality that offer more than surface-level platitudes. You celebrate the struggle to remain steadfast in values within a world that persists in bending them. Finally, integrate mindfulness into your daily practice, an anchor that connects you to your core values and intentions. Allow each decision to emerge from a place of awareness, scrutinizing the motivations behind your actions. Consider the implications of your choices on not just yourself, but the greater web of humanity that intertwines us all. Ask yourself with each choice, am I reinforcing the structures of evil or choosing the path of principled virtue? As you begin to embrace these shifts, you can feel a transformation brewing within. You venture into the realm of self-actualization, reclaiming that which was once traded for convenience or conformity. No longer will you hover in the shadows of moral ambiguity, but rather you will step boldly into the light of consciousness. You stand on a threshold. Each step forward toward fulfillment, growth, and authenticity signifies a rebellion against the forces that conspire to corrupt the good. By choosing to understand, confront, and ultimately integrate these principles into your life, the question of whether good people can become evil takes on new meaning. Perhaps it is not an inevitability, but rather the child of neglect, of failing to ensure that the light of integrity illuminates their choices. With newfound vigor, you feel the urge to dive deeper into this exploration of moral existence. What lies ahead is a greater revelation, one that promises to redefine how you perceive the battle between good and evil, and the roles each of us play in this ongoing saga of humanity. The weight of these ideas becomes almost tangible as you contemplate the silent consequences of the hidden forces at play. The gradual shift from good to evil does not happen overnight. It is often a subtle erosion of moral boundaries, a quiet surrender to the allure of convenience, recognition, and power. As you navigate this intricate web, it becomes crucial to explore how these unseen influences shape personal lives and societal structures alike. The psychology of cognitive biases emerges as a pivotal factor, those mental shortcuts that dictate our decisions and perceptions. Each day, you and the people around you fall prey to biases like confirmation bias, where you seek out information that validates your existing beliefs, and the bandwagon effect, where you yield to prevailing norms and ideologies. The notion of groupthink can result in a collective acceptance of unethical behavior as critical thinking gives way to consensus. That well-intentioned firefighter who sought validation now stands in the company of those encouraging him to take greater risks, all to garner approval, applause, and perhaps even fame. Did their moral compass not waver? On a neurological level, researchers continue to uncover how our brains are wired to respond to rewards. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, fuels our desire to seek affirmation or success. The immediate high that comes from social media likes, promotions, or recognition can create a feedback loop, pivoting you further into a cycle where actions are validated not by their ethical implications, but by their social acceptance. Take a moment to think about this. Have you ever done something you'd once deemed unthinkable just to feel the rush of approval? The dark irony here is the gradual desensitization to wrongness. Societal norms often serve as implicit encouragements to tiptoe across ethical lines, and the repercussions can spiral into collective moral decay. For example, corruption in institutions, be it government, business, or education, demonstrates how systems can perpetuate wrongdoing while cloaking it in justifications. The everyday acceptance of minor ethical violations, padding a resume, manipulating figures, or subtly undermining a colleague, can create a culture where drastic moral failures seem almost predictable. This phenomenon is not without historical precedent. Just consider the legacy of the Holocaust, wherein ordinary individuals became complicit in acts of unimaginable cruelty. The phenomenon of the banality of evil, as articulated by political theorist Hannah Arendt, reveals how good people, when caught up in a system that dehumanizes others, can embrace horrific ideologies. The chilling reality is that the institutions designed to foster trust and communal growth can become breeding grounds for despicable acts. Moreover, the erosion of personal and societal ethics feeds into the broader cultural conditioning, a pervasive influence on identity formation. From childhood, individuals are exposed to varying messages about morality, often influenced by media depictions, peer groups, and family values. Are you ever aware of how a television show glorifies anti-heroes, subtly reshaping perceptions of what is acceptable behavior? Those narratives chip away at the ideal of personal integrity, rendering ethical considerations malleable in the face of popular culture. Even more unsettling is the realization that desire itself can fuel moral disengagement. The concept of moral disengagement, introduced by psychologist Albert Bandura, explains how individuals can rationalize their behaviors to avoid feelings of guilt. If everyone is doing it, it can't be that bad. A voice in your mind convinces you. Underlying values erode as justification takes root, making room for more significant transgressions. What begins as a minor infraction blooms into a series of choices, guided by a hunger for personal gain or validation. As you contemplate these dynamics, the urgency to escape this unseen trap grows. The transformation from good to evil is often a slow burn, and recognizing it within oneself or others requires immense self-awareness. The realization hits you. There exists a socially accepted narrative that lures individuals down this dark path, and to resist it is to stand as a countercultural beacon against the tide. You can feel your thoughts echoing in the recesses of your mind, convictions colliding with doubt. Understanding these unseen forces isn't merely an academic exercise, it's a call to vigilance in your own life. The consequences are dire, yet illuminating, pointing toward the need for a radical shift in perspective. As you teeter on the brink of this realization, ready to wrestle with the roots of moral deception, you cannot help but wonder, how can one rebel against this desperate march toward ethical oblivion? What steps can be taken to reclaim a sense of agency, focus on authenticity, and wrest control over one's narrative? As you venture deeper into your quest for understanding, the pieces begin to align, forming a haunting mosaic that reframes everything you thought you engaged with regarding good and evil. The final realization dawns, like the first light of dawn breaking through a long, oppressive night, one that forces you to re-examine not just the world around you, but also the very nature of existence itself. The ultimate truth, profoundly simple yet startlingly complex, reveals itself in a single assertion: there is no absolute good or absolute evil. They exist as intricate tapestries woven from the threads of choice, experience, and circumstance. In this realization, you are confronted with a paradox. The complexity of human morality mirrors the spectrum of existence, where light and shadow are inseparable and ever-present. What if, instead of framing morality in binary terms, we recognize it as part of a continuum where consciousness shapes perception? Imagine a world where every good intention can set forth a cascade of events leading to catastrophe, a world where evil can arise from love twisted inappropriately. How many decisions made without awareness or the guidance of those pressing moral inquiries could lead individuals down unpredictable paths of harm? The closer you look, the more your heart races as the implications sink in. This recognition obliges us to redefine the nature of humanity itself. Perhaps the greatest struggle lies not in the victory of good over evil, but in the ongoing negotiation between the two, a dance played out on the stage of our lives, where every interaction carves out new possibilities for understanding. Reframe your perspectives and recall the wisdom imparted by Viktor Frankl, who illuminated the human capacity for finding meaning amidst suffering. Our choices can transcend darkness, molding our identities against the odds stacked against us. It is in these choices, each laden with the weight of potential good and the specters of moral failure, that we carve our paths. You also confront a profound sense of agency within this truth. The capacity for virtue and vice rests in the very essence of free will, demanding vigilance and awareness. The transition from good to evil is an act, a decision embedded in the act of becoming something. Each moment is a pivotal choice, a pause in which to reflect on your values and their expressions in the world. What legacy do you wish to create? Can every thought, every intention, each action contribute to a collective narrative centered around love, understanding, and empathy? The implications are staggering. The narrative of humanity is not simply one of moral conflicts. It becomes a story woven together through shared experiences, interdependence, and collective growth. Understanding the interplay of good and evil pushes you toward an inevitable conclusion. Our greatest weapon against moral decay lies in embracing our responsibilities to one another, fostering dialogue and perpetuating a cycle of compassion, even amidst our deepest flaws. As you absorb this potent revelation, consider the poetic imagery of a candle illuminating darkness. Each act of kindness radiates warmth, not only against individual despair, but carries the weight of potential change, rippling outwards to touch the lives of others. Perhaps it is not about eradicating the darkness within yourself or others, but about nurturing the light to overshadow it, illuminating the power that exists to create beauty amidst the chaos. With a heart revived, you recognize the haunting challenges laid before you, not simply as a moral obligation, but as a profound opportunity to embark on a quest for authenticity. Reflect upon your decisions with renewed vigilance, wielding knowledge as your weapon to resist the seductive inertia of complacency. As you navigate this intricate path of existence, reframe each day with the intention of fostering empathy and connection. Challenge yourself to hold space for others as they wrestle with their shadows. Offer compassion, recognizing the shared struggle that is human experience. In this crescendo of understanding, you stand transformed, aware that the journey from good to evil is not linear but a spiral, a dynamic interplay of light and shadow upon which the fabric of humanity is woven. You realize the profound takeaway of this exploration. Each choice breathes life into a narrative that matters. As you step into the world armed with this new realization, the depth of self-awareness washes over you. You may never fully escape the shadows, but you possess the agency to illuminate the path ahead, shaping a future where good flourishes in the unlikeliest of wounds, emerging stronger from the depths. In this life, a mosaic of mutual existence, you are invited to plant seeds of understanding that might one day bloom into a garden where the spectre of evil, though ever present, is met with unyielding resolve and compassion. And as each day dawns anew, you allow the light to guide your journey, ever thoughtful of the delicate balance between the forces that shape us all. If you have made it this far, you already know the truth. The question is, what will you do with it? Because the moment you realize how good people become evil, you also realize how to stop it.